So if you don't mind, maybe if you could just start us off with the opening thoughts, looking back to the West Virginia game to close it out, and then looking ahead to Kansas.
Well, everything. I was on track after the game on Saturday with West Virginia, and then now we're just getting ready for Kansas and trying to keep everybody focused and have a good week of practice is really the challenge during this season.
All right. Questions for Coach. We'll start with Robert Allen from Triple Play Sports Radio. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Mike, it seems like in this COVID-19 atmosphere we're in, offensive line play and offensive line stability is kind of the biggest problem. You got a group out there on Saturday that seemed to play better. How'd they look, and your thoughts on keeping a good offensive line together during this COVID-19 era?
Well, we're at a little disadvantage now. We're playing guys that have never played before at this level, and some new guys, but they played a little better this week. We got a long ways to go. We're getting great effort from them. They're taking coaching. They're buying into our culture here at Oklahoma State. So we'll continue to work them. Hopefully, we get a little better each week.
How much confidence do you think they maybe picked up? 2 100-yard rushers, and I know those guys do a lot on their own with their individual talents. Only gave up the 1 sack. You think you got those guys feeling a little better about themselves?
Well, Charlie Dickey and Casey Dunn are the ultra positive people. So they've got them believing that they're better than they are anyway. I'm not concerned with that. They've done a great job of coaching them and instilling confidence in them and trying to be as simple as possible, give them a chance to play with a clear mind.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Jenny Carlson from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, you guys have won your first 2 games, I mean, with scores that we haven't seen a lot of in the Big 12. And you said after both games that you felt good about the defense doing the heavy lifting. Does that take an adjustment of psyche, even though, I mean, before you might have won a game, 48-40 or whatever, same sort of margin of victory, but does it feel different with those lower scores up on the scoreboard?
Well, it's completely different. And if you look around the league, I haven't seen much. I saw a little bit of Baylor, Kansas because it was at night. But the only guy that's burning out bulbs is Yursich. Everybody else is playing differently based on the defenses that we're seeing in this league. The defensive structures in this league have changed considerably in the last 2 years. And so you're not seeing as many high-scoring games based on the structure of defenses. The games are slowed down more than they were. Years ago, everybody played fast. Teams have slowed down some. We still play fast. I don't know what everybody – Yursich must be playing fast because he's burning some bulbs out down there on their scoreboard at Texas. But it's just changed over the last couple of years, and defenses have made an adjustment.
You said it does feel different? Like
Sure.
you look up there from time to time and your heart skip a beat?
Well, it's different for me. I mean, my job is to game manage, and if the defense is playing good on 4th and short, you punt. If your defense is struggling and you don't have a lot of confidence in their ability to stop them, you go for a lot of 4th downs. And so, there's been several 4th downs that we would have gone for in the past year, but right now we're just punting and playing defense.
Hey, can I ask you real quick about Amen and his role on this defense? I mean, this is a defense that, frankly, you can look everywhere and find guys that are playing well, but he seems to really work as far as Jim building around, his leadership and just what he can do. What have you seen out of his development over, say, the last year and a half?
Well, he's a very intelligent player. He's come a long way. His effort's been really good. He's, as I mentioned to you guys, that our conditioning, our cardio is probably 75% of it was what it has been my last 15 years here as a head coach going into game 3. And that affects everybody. It's affecting him a little bit. But the thing that we're getting out of him is he's a very intelligent player. He helps to set the defense, and he's playing with great effort. And he's been productive. He's making a lot of tackles.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from Garen Emig from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Garen.
Mike, you mentioned Saturday you were concerned with Chuba putting the ball on the ground a couple of times. That's a little unusual. Is there anything else that doesn't look as familiar to him the first 2 games as he ran a year ago?
Well, he hadn't broke a long one yet. He hadn't made that last guy miss and broke a long one yet. That'll come with him. But as I mentioned, I mean, Chuba or anybody else, you got to take care of the football. We were very fortunate on Saturday. We had the ball on the ground a number of times, and the other team didn't get it. And our players understand that. We have to take care of the football much better than we have in the last couple of games.
When a young dude puts up the numbers that he did a year ago and comes back, there's a standard that people hold him to, and sometimes that's unfair. Is he a victim of his own success, or is that a little bit too early to say through 2 games? And the fact that people are expecting so much of him.
I don't have any idea with that. I don't know. Everybody has an opinion, and I don't really listen to much that's going on out there, so I'm not sure. He obviously has had a lot of success, and I think as the season moves on, he'll pick it up and have more success.
Let me real quick follow-up. Is he playing up to your standard for him?
Well, he doesn't need to play up to my standards. He needs to play up to his standards. I mean,
Okay.
we put him in a position to have success. Guys got to play hard and make plays on their own, and they're responsible to their teammates and themselves more so than the coaches.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from Scott Wright from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Scott.
Mike, after getting to look at the film, how did Shane Illingworth grade out?
Well, the same as what I told you after the game. If you're grading him out as a college quarterback, he was below average. If you're grading him out as a second game of your career, he was average. And I expected that just based on last week when he came in, there wasn't any pressure. He wasn't expecting to play. Now he had to get prepared to play. And, toward the end of the week, Spencer, we didn't feel like that he would be 100%. So he plays. And so you probably had some nerves and other things that affect your play as a young quarterback.
Will this week be similar to last week in terms of determining whether you're going with Shane or Spencer on Saturday?
Well, obviously Spencer's he's going to feel a lot better. I mean, he practiced last night, and I'm guessing when we go out Tuesday, he'll be even in better condition. So, the reps were in Shane's favor last week, and I would say by the middle of the week that the reps will be in Spencer's favor, just based on what we see. But we'll have to wait and see where we're at Tuesday or Wednesday with Spencer.
Changing track really quickly. Have you seen something in Rodarius that has him playing on a different level this year?
Well, he's playing good. Everybody on defense is playing good. We've asked him to give great effort. We're going to play a lot of guys, bring their own party with enthusiasm because we're playing in limited capacity stadiums, and they've at this point they're playing fast. They're coming together as a group and they're playing reckless, and they can have success if they practice hard each week. I mean, that's just it's the old coach's cliche, but it is what it is. If they bust their butt and practice hard and come together as a group, run around, they can keep playing well. They start to listen to people tell them how good they are and not practice as well, they'll get 40 hung on them. It's just the way it is.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Jared Alatorre from the Ocali. Go ahead, Jared.
Good morning, Coach.
Morning.
How do you game plan differently with a freshman quarterback compared to not just Spencer, but other experienced quarterbacks that you've had in the past, other upperclassmen?
Well, our game plan can say the same with the exception of tagging quarterback runs. The running plays that we have, we can tag with quarterback reads on every play. And then our passing system stays the same. So it's really a simple process for us. We've run this system now for, 10 or 11 years. And we just adjust it based on quarterback play, whether we tag quarterback runs on it. But our passing game pretty much stays the same as it has been for the last 10 years.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, Mike, you've actually had pretty decent success when you've had to go to a backup quarterback over the years. How tough is it to win in the Big 12 when you do have to go to a backup?
Not easy.
On an injury basis.
Yeah, right. It's not easy because they don't get the reps at Oklahoma State. I don't know how other schools divide up their reps, but our starter, particularly in an August preseason practice, is going to get 90% of the reps. So your backup's going to get, 8 to 10, and the other guy's just going to get what's left. which is not much. I mean, I can add to 100, but particularly in preseason camp. In losing a quarterback in the first game like that, like last week, that kind of derailed us, as you could see by our offensive production, because we just hadn't gotten the other guys much work based on early in the season. As the season goes on and we've had good fortune with quarterbacks staying healthy, those guys will get more work. The twos will get more work during the season. But we hadn't given our backups much work in August preseason camp this year.
Well, do you have, is some of your success over the years just because you've had some pretty good backups? I mean, you had JW ready to go one time and Shelf and people like that. You've had some, I mean, this has been an extreme case this year, but you generally have a decent backup ready. Well,
unfortunately, we've had to use one over the last 10 years. I think the number, you guys could probably add it up quicker. I think seven of the last 10 years, we've had to use backup quarterbacks. And I think 3 of those years we had to go to the third team guy. So I don't know what it is with us, and we're not a big quarterback run team, particularly in those last few years. But what we do is try to keep it as simple as possible. And our system is built to where a guy can come in and function if he understands a couple things on every play. And the simplicity allows another guy to come in and distribute the ball where it needs to be. But I think the question you're asking, or the answer you're looking for, Barry, is we've got good skill players. We've been very fortunate at wide out and running back. So if they can distribute the ball and get the ball in the hands of the guys that can make touchdowns, then they end up getting pretty decent numbers at quarterback.
Our next question comes from Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Mike, I know you guys had 2 games to get used to not having as many fans, but this is your first road game. Do you think there'll be another level of adjustment that needs to take place, or are you guys pretty much over that as a team?
I'm not sure, but it's something that we discussed yesterday in the meeting I had with the players on Sunday night when I go over the upcoming opponent and give them my opinion on what's going on. I did mention that. I don't know what I think we had more people in the game in the West Virginia game than in the other game. I mean, I don't pay any attention to that, but it looked like to me there was more people there, so they might have sold some more tickets. Kansas supposedly is letting 10,000 in, is what somebody told me. So I had that discussion with our team. You have to cover it. You got to talk to them about it, and it's going to be quiet in most stadiums, and so. I've used the term, you got to bring your own party this year. You're not going to show up and the party's there waiting on you. You got to bring your own enthusiasm, and that's the message that we've given the team this season.
I know you already said that basically the protocol for home game and road game is pretty much the same this year, but did you talk to them, have an extra conversation with them about just making sure that they're, even more honed in on the COVID-19 protocols now you guys are leaving Stillwater?
Well, it's the same. I've talked so much about COVID that it stays the same each week. I talk to them again after the game because, there's no secret. They're college kids, and my concern is them going out and getting amongst the crowd and being social, and it's out there. It's particularly in kids ages 17 to 25. It's all over the place. Most of them don't even know they have the virus. So I stress the importance of, they tested again yesterday. We'll test again Wednesday. We'll test again early Friday morning. Stress the importance of, we have to try to avoid a setback. We've been unbelievable here with our medical training, our doctors, and what we've accomplished by bringing guys in early. And we've been in a really good position. Now we have to be a little careful of what the second wave can actually do to you from an athletic standpoint, because we've got several players that are out of that 90-day window now. Believe it or not, guys that had it in May and June, if you start adding up days, you're starting to get into October. So you could start to get the resurgence. If it's going to show back up, we don't know. That's what concerns us, not necessarily just for eligible players, but just to try to keep the virus at a minimum right now with where it's at. We've made good strides on this campus. The other students are getting educated, in my opinion. And so you want to try to keep it down as much as possible. So that education is important for our players.
Thank you, Mike.
Our next question comes from Jacob Unruh from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hey, Mike, to kind of follow up on that, what specifically changes for you guys traveling this year?
What's that?
To kind of follow up, what specifically changes traveling-wise for you guys?
You just spaced out and you wear a mask. When we're in confined areas, you wear a mask and you're spaced out differently than what you would be on a normal. You sit in an airplane and you would have an open seat and then another player, and now I think they're every other row or something like that. We hadn't been on a plane, so I'm not for sure. I just know they said they were going to space everybody out, and then you require your mask when you're in a confined area.
Does it change for hotels and stuff too? Do you change how you kind of done that?
We've had everybody paired up with a virus guy and a non-virus guy.
Okay.
So you don't get a tracing. The tracing's what's getting you. I don't know what's getting everybody else, but what can get you is the tracing. One guy gets it, and the other 4 guys got to go to 2-week primary because they've been in the area. So we don't put 2 guys in one room that have not had the virus. Because if one guy gets it, the other guy's automatically a trace guy, unless he can prove to them he had a mask on, stayed 6 feet away from him, which you could, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah. On a different topic, Alex Hale's been really strong for you. What have you seen from him to start the year?
Well, I don't want to look in the bag and count what I've got with him. He's just been good. And I was afraid somebody was going to ask that question, but he's been really good in August. He's been really good. And so I don't know with kickers and punters. I don't have any idea what makes them tick or what they do, but he doesn't say much. He's very calm. He's got good composure. He doesn't get rattled. And I think, they tell me his technique's good. So we're 2-0 because in the first 2 games, our special teams have been very good. Because we certainly haven't done enough on offense to win games, and our defense has played well. But our special teams has been the deciding factor, in my opinion, in the first 2 games.
How much emphasis have you put on special teams? Because it seems like that's been a struggle for some other programs across the country.
We stressed more this year. I changed some things this year. I would like to take credit for it, but again, when you're talking about special teams and kicking and punting, it's hard to really decide what makes a difference unless you allot an enormous amount of time. Enormous is probably a bad word, but if you don't amount a lot of time into it like Kansas State used to, then you just kind of try to do the best you can. So we've made some adjustments on special teams and our approach this year, and so far it's worked out well for us. I'm pleased with the results at this time.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
All right, we're down to our last couple questions for Coach. This one will come from Robert Allen from Triple Play Sports. Go ahead, Robert. Robert, you're on mute.
You might as well have a mask
on,
Robert.
Yeah, you know what? I'm at a stop sign, and I can be safe with this question. And it's a quick one. Mike, 2 of your fumbles were recovered by big guys, and I know you guys do a fumble recovery drill with your offensive linemen. Do you know how long you remember you guys doing that drill and what the emphasis was? Because it came up huge. Tevin's recovery was not an easy recovery. He had to fight for the football.
Well, they did a good job, and JT did a great job of laying out on the one on the kickoff. And we were very fortunate in that game that we got those back. But we've done that offensive lineman recovery drill for as long as I can remember. There's an art to recovering a fumble, particularly with big guys. When you're over 300 pounds, just the laws of physics. Somebody who's 300 pounds jumps on an object that's not square or flat on an edge. It's going to squirt and go the other way. Those guys have done a good job with that. And that was a big part of the game.
Thanks.
Next question comes from Scott Wright from the Oklahoma. Go ahead, Scott.
All right, one more Tevin Jenkins question. What has shown up from him? He seems to be playing incredibly well on your offensive line right now.
Tevin?
Yes, Tevin.
Tevin is an interesting young man. He doesn't even know how good he is. He doesn't know how much he's worth. I mean, if you just want me to call it like it is. He's uncharacteristically strong. I mean, I watched him in the weight room this summer. I think he hit 225 like 35 times, and they weren't even counting. I mean, he was just doing it. And he has tremendous feet. He's got good leverage. He's highly intelligent. And his work ethic is getting better this year. And I've actually told him several times over the last couple of years, I was serious, but somewhat joking with him in the weight room when there'd be a bunch of guys working out. And I said, Tevin, can you name the one person in this weight room that's worth $40 million? And he looks at me, like I'm trying to give him a haircut or something. And he says, no. And I said, if you decide to work really hard, if you decide to just say, you know what, I'm going to do it, you're the guy. That's the kind of talent that he has. And if he just gets his mind focused on, that's what I want to do, that's the level that he can get to. Kind of like with the kicker, I don't really want to look in the bag and count my eggs yet. But in this last game, he actually played a little bit nasty, like what you have to do to be a really good player and to play in the NFL. So we were happy with what he did. He was our offensive player of the game. It's pretty hard for a lineman to be an offensive player of the game.
Thanks, Mike.
Actually got time for one last question. It'll be from Cody Nagel from Go Pokes. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, Mike, do you have any updates on Cole Birmingham or Hunter Anthony?
They won't be with us this week. Those guys will be out a few weeks. I thought I shared that with you last week, but they have more extensive ankle, that ankle injury that takes, can take 4 weeks or 8 weeks. We can't ever predict it based on the, the separation of the ligament and the bone and how high it comes up on the Achilles. So those guys will be out a while.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Coach, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your time today. Before we let you go, is there any final points that you would like to make?
Oh, I'm good. Good seeing you guys. We'll see y'all in Lawrence.
All right, thanks, Coach. We appreciate you. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you as well.